Matt Hernandez. This is Books to Read, and today we're going to continue looking at When I First Held You, edited by Brian Gresko. I'd love to talk about stories with you, essays, and otherwise that we can chat about. So it'd be wonderful if you can join my locals community. But for now, I guess I'm speaking a bit into the ether for now. Now, today we'll be looking at the next two essays in this book, When I First Held You. So, this book, edited by Brian Gresko, When I First Held You, is a collection of essays written by successful authors on fatherhood. So, all these authors, all male, all fathers. So, the first essay that we looked at was the introductory essay by Brian Gresko, then the following one by Dennis Lehane, called On Love and Incompetence. So today we will look at Lev Grossman's essay, Daughter Pressure, and then the following essay by David Bezmozgis, First Child. Now, of these two essays, the first one stuck out much more to me because he describes a little bit of being in a sort of like just pro not kid. Maybe I should have thought about the best words to use that I could use, but also best reflect his views. So if I get maybe an adjective wrong or something, I apologize. But he talks about, it says here on one of the parts I highlighted, nobody talked about having children. And I suppose maybe many in my generation, and I imagine Lev Grossman's a bit older than I am, to where he might have seen that happen quite a bit in his own life. Is like maybe our parents' generation just had kids just because that's what they did at a certain stage in life. So he talks about what this experience was like. And I do believe, this is me just saying my own opinion, but, the more people that have kids, the more that we have sort of a pro-child world. And if so much of the world has such low birth rates and such, I mean, does it always make for pleasant experiences everywhere whenever places are not built with children in mind and stuff, and there aren't things to do with children whenever we go to certain places? The following essay, First Child by David Bezmozgis, is it feels a bit different, in which it centers around his own experience with his appendicitis right before his first child, his daughter, was born. And it does take you a little bit out of what the theme of the book is a little bit, but for some that might be relatable, because as I will show on the screen, he asks the doctor in front of his wife, he asks, will I be able to pick him up? Because he's being wheeled in and he's about to have surgery and whatnot. And when he later reflects on the statement, it probably didn't seem as cool as maybe he thought it did. I mean, maybe it did. His mind is more on his child than himself. So it must be quite a feeling that some people have to, you know, become ill right before a pregnancy or during it, or maybe even right after. And you got to take care of a newborn, or you're anticipating doing so and such. And I mean, the essay is called First Child, and one is curious about this type of thing. So I'll give some more thoughts as I show some pages from these two essays on the screen, and I hope you enjoy. And I'll do my best to represent the text, but also give a few of my thoughts as I go along as well. So this here, once again, is the editor, edited by Brian Gresko. The next photo here, this is Lev Grossman. He wrote the, well, I guess you can say the second essay in this book, Daughter Pressure. Here is the next author who wrote the following essay after that, David Bezmozgis. He wrote First Child. This is a cover of the book again. And then, okay, the cover, and then let's get into it a bit. Okay, here. So, here on page 16, Lev Grossman writes, No one talked about having children in our family. What people talked about was your life plan. A life plan was essentially the stuff you wanted to do before you died, and your success was measured by how closely you managed to stick to it. Music, writing, teaching, politics, travel, money, those were fit subjects for a life plan. Children were not. People got distracted by children, sidetracked, and bogged down, and time sucked by them and wandered away from their life plans. Therefore, they had failed. You know, I wonder how much people might still kind of feel this way and stuff. I imagine, with myself, I think when I was maybe in my 20s, I'd say, oh, yeah, I'd want to have kids later on. But then when later on finally came, and I'm like, oh, did I do the things I needed to do by this time and this age and this juncture in my life? Well, I always wanted to have kids, but when the time actually came, but then for him, he didn't feel like maybe that was the case at all, huh? Hey, on the next one, page 19 here, it wasn't that I didn't love Lily. I can honestly say that I love my daughter more than more than I'd ever loved anyone or anything in my life. But childcare reduced me down to a state of boredom that was practically hallucinatory. I lived in fear of those Saturdays. The minute my wife got home on Saturday, I started in dreading the next Saturday. You know, I don't know, it's quite a feeling. I definitely have to say that my oldest is a bit more difficult than my youngest in some regards. Like if my wife has to run some kind of errand, oh my goodness, my oldest would sometimes just cry. Like once I hit the 2 hour mark, he just wanted mommy. And the second one isn't so much like that sometimes. It is quite an experience. It is quite an experience. And what do you think about that? Whoever might be watching this as this video might go into the ether. What are your experiences with this kind of thing? But with boredom, I don't know, there are moments where like my kid can always think of something to do. There's always like too much to do at times. I feel guilty whenever I do feel bored. And there should be more that I could try to do, and I feel guilty at those moments because it's like I want to do a thing with him. I'm never like bored of him exactly. I don't know, but maybe this is a very mixed and contradictory feeling because one might love someone so much, but then not know what to do with that person at the same time. Might be a little contradictory, huh? Hey, here, page 21. I was raised by cool, distant parents to be a cool, distant person. But there's no point in trying to be cool or distant around a baby. There's no point in holding things back. Babies don't hold anything, anything back. They have no filters. And around Lily, I was losing track of my filters too. You can't bullshit a baby. Who would even want that? Or who would even do that? I couldn't bullshit her. I don't know. I don't know. I think that maybe many parents feel like they want to be, or that they are distant. And but I don't think distant is trying to be cool. I think distance is a degree of apathy, that kind of thing. Definitely try to tell mine all the time that I love them and all that. For the first time in my life, it mattered. For the first time in life, I felt like it mattered what I did, who I was. It was all well and good for me to fuck around and write mediocre fiction when I was just some asshole. Oh my gosh, the amount of profanity I'm saying to read this out loud. I did not consider that before making this video. Um, but to talk about the passage of time, same as with the previous essay with Dennis Lehane, it's quite interesting because there are some goals that now the feeling to procrastinate has disappeared. But though there's no desire to procrastinate, and there's every desire, motivation, everything aligned to do the things that I need to do. But when you have kids, sometimes you just can't do it at the same time, and it's quite a battle, isn't it? Okay, so now I'm jumping on to the next essay. I think I shared enough thoughts with the previous one. I guess there was a bit more on this page with Lev Grossman. He talks about how he got divorced, remarried, fixed himself a bit. So when living with a family that was kind of like, or grew up with a family that was kind of like not family, kind of. I don't know the best way to phrase that, but I think you get the gist of what I mean. He had to kind of learn it. He had to learn it, and it took him some time. It did definitely take him some time. Hey, here's the only screenshot I got from David Bezmozgis, his essay, First Child. Just this part here, very short essay. Eventually, a doctor examined me, took blood, and provided a dose of morphine, which, though it made me throw up, quieted the pain. Then he diagnosed me with appendicitis. A scan confirmed it. The whole thing seemed strange to me. Was it possible for a person to have recurring attacks of appendicitis over a span of 6 years? Strange or not, I was being wheeled along a cold corridor toward the operating room. Yeah, this whole thing is quite interesting in that his daughter's about to be born, but this is the issue, or this is the situation that he decides to put in this essay into here. It's I don't know. How might you relate to that? I mean, I don't I can sort of connect with this, with the surgery my wife had right before she was pregnant and that kind of thing, and then postponing waiting to be pregnant for the surgery. So there's some connection there, and that kind of delayed, when you have kids. But this point here, I'm having a bit of trouble making some connections with this, but it did stick out to me nevertheless, or at least the part that stuck out most to me here. So I think I've shown enough pages and stuff for now. I'm going to go back to the full screen mode of just me. Thanks. Thanks so much for watching. That's about it for these two essays. The reason why I'm doing such short essays is hopefully so that way I can pump out content out a little bit faster. I'm not quite skilled enough to pump out content as often as I would like quite yet, so I'd like to do something a little bit more bite-sized. And I figured on probably having to move a few of maybe the kids' videos to its own separate channel. And by doing so, would artificially make it look like the amount of videos I made is a little bit less than I have. So for now, maybe I can make some shorter videos, or at least on something shorter like this, to discuss and to show for now. Well, that's all for now, and perhaps tomorrow I'll continue on to the next book, and also just keep finding some other compilations of essays, short stories, and that type of thing. Thank you very much. See you later. Bye.